I want to give a quick shout out to my patrons. Thank you so much for your support. Hey y'all, it's Kate from the Literary Apothecary and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be doing the March wrap up with my April TBR. Sit tight because there's a lot to talk about. Now in March, if I can do my math correctly, I finished 9 books and 1 essay. One of those might have carried over into April. I did not keep track of that as far as this goes. So don't track my math because that might be wrong, but that's approximate. So what did I finish in March? Very quick synopsis because all of these I've already talked about either in reviews and or on my bi-weekly reading vlogs. So we're just going to do quick synopsis of the books that I read. Everything I Never Told You by Slusnig. This was our book for the Wine and Crime Book of the Month. Both Leslie and I DNF'd this and decided not to have a live show for this in March. I just was not interested in anything in the story, and I had no sympathy for characters and felt like it was mislabeled as a thriller. And so that's, I don't talk bad a lot about books, so I'm going to leave it there. Next up, we have The Fifth Elephant by Terry Pratchett. This one is a 5 out of 5 stars. I absolutely loved it. This is my favorite Discworld book so far. Gaspode is just chef's kiss. Detritus, I just absolutely love. And Sybil, well, I can't tell you because that would give away spoilers. But holy cow, the way that Terry Pratchett uses social issues in his crazy fictional Discworld is top-notch writing. The essay that I finished was, of course, our Joan Didion essay of the month, Guaymas Sonoro. Basically, Joan takes us on vacation to Mexico. And it wasn't bad, but it wasn't one of her greatest, I don't think. And then I finished Demons by Fyodor Dostoevsky. This was, of course, part of our read-along that started back in December. Finally finished this, had our live show for this. It was so much fun. I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. The first 2 parts, especially the first part, drug a little for me. It was really slow, really hard to keep track of what was happening to who and when. But that last part 3, was a banger. It was so good. And in my opinion, it made the book. I also have other thoughts on this, but that would give away spoilers. So go watch I'll link the live show down in the description below. Then I finished The Bleeding Stone by Joseph John Lee. Sorry, Joe. This one I gave 5 out of 5 stars. This was absolutely fantastic. This is one of my self-pub books for March. I could not stop thinking about this book while I was reading it. After I finished it, it was so good. I recommend it all the time already. Fantastic characters, gave me all the emotions. It's a historical fantasy based off of indigenous stories of basically Columbus's time when he, quote, discovered America. And it's so good. It's told from the indigenous point of view, which we don't get a lot in historical fiction. And he does such a great job. I'll also link the live show for that one down in the description below too. And then I finished Nightfall and Other Dangers by Jacob Stephen Moore. This one I gave 4 out of 5 stars. This was a horror short story collection. Some stories I absolutely loved. Some went over my head, but it was properly spooky and creepy. I read the arc of this, and in my review for this, I said incorrect information. This one comes out on April 7th, so by the time you're watching this, it'll have just be getting ready to come out on Friday, April 7th. So if you are a horror short story fan, go check this out now because this was really, really well done. A Clash of Kings by George R. R. Martin. This one I gave 4.5 out of 5 stars. I enjoyed all of the politicking more than I actually thought I would. It just felt like these books are just written so well. For me, why I took it down a half star, felt like there was too much sex and rape and all of that nastiness in this book that sometimes George R. R. Martin uses it to further along his story, which I don't mind. If you use it as a point, then, you know, I get it. But it just felt like sometimes it was just there to be there and it wasn't actually needed in the story. And that's why I gave it 4.5 and not 5 stars. The Kingdom of Liars by Nick Martell. This one I gave 5 out of 5 stars. I loved this book so much. I loved everything about this book. It was so engaging, and the writing, the prose was so easy to read. The story was entertaining. We had great characters, amazing world building. I didn't want this book to end. And you'll hear about this series when I talk about my April TBR, because a rare occasion, I actually added book 2 to my April TBR right after finishing book 1, and that hardly ever happens to me because I always have so much to read. Okay, so next up is The Trials of Ashmont by John Palladino. This one is another 5 out of 5 star rating. This one you're going to hear me talk about so much. I've become such a huge cheerleader of John and his writing because he made me a fan of grimdark. I absolutely loved this book so much, more than I thought. I know Leslie at the Nerdy Narrative absolutely loved it and had high praises for this book. So I knew I would like it when I went into it because we often have very close tastes in rating. But y'all, this book was written so well. I have the arc for book 2 on my April TBR because I just loved it so much. I want to support John Palladino in everything that he does. He's become a good friend. I also had him on a live show for Self Pub Sunday. I will link that in the description below too. Y'all, if you are a fan of grimdark and you haven't read The Trials of Ashmont yet, you need to go read that because that was so good. And then the last book that I finished in March was The Dragon Reborn by Robert Jordan. This one I gave 4 out of 5 stars, and I'll have a review coming for this just in a couple days. I liked learning about the Aes Sedai and the Osiers, but it all felt a bit kind of slapped together, especially the ending kind of felt a bit jumbled to me. And, you know, I said this in our live show, which of course I'll also link down in the description below, but it felt, it could be just my brain lately there's just so much going on in my life right now that my brain has a hard time focusing. So it could be that, but it also could be, I think it's probably a mixture of just so much in my head. It's hard to keep track, and also like so much is happening in this book. So that is my March wrap up. Now let's talk about the books that I'm carrying over into April. By the time you see this, it's already April. Today is April 2nd actually, so we're now into April, my birthday month. I am hopeful to make at least 1 or 2 birthday specific videos this month. I need to plan those out like now so I can figure them out, but more birthday fun to come. But anyways, back to our TBR. So carrying over from March into April, we have Night Watch by Terry Pratchett, which I actually just finished yesterday. I gave that one 5 out of 5 stars, and I'll talk about that in the April wrap-up, of course. Conspirata, which is also known as Lustrum, book 2 in the Cicero series by Robert Harris. This book hooked me immediately, and I can't wait to see where it goes. Moondeeds by Palmer Pickering. This is supposed to be my 3rd Self Pub Sunday for March. We had to postpone our show, which is good because I am nowhere near finishing this book. But I'm really enjoying it. This is a sci-fi fantasy with twin magic in it, and I absolutely love it. And then the last book that I'm carrying over into April is Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies by Heather Fawcett. This was our the patron pick in March from Kate at Kate Coy, and I'm enjoying this a lot. It kind of reminds me of a mixture of, we'll say, A Natural History of Dragons, Guns of the Dawn, and Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell. If you put all of those books into one book, then I think you would get Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia Fairy. I'm hoping to finish at least one, if not two, of these books today, this weekend. We'll see how far I can get after I film these videos. So then my April TBR. So in April, I am participating in the TBR Blitz readathon, where it is a readathon based off of getting some books off of your TBRs. This is held by AR Witham at the Keymark Discord. I am part of the best team and the winning team, obviously, Team Stack Smashers, which is captained by Derry at Derry Reads. Derry's read it before. I'll link her channel down below also. We can only count up to 5 books for this readathon, which is great because that takes some of the pressure off reading as much as you can. Who knows if I'll even get through these 5, because some of them are huge chunkers. And some of these may change by the time I actually get to the books. We'll see. So, the first book up is The Shadow Rising by Robert Jordan. This is book 4 in the Wheel of Time series, of course. And this is going to satisfy my intimidating book prompt, which has to be a book over 500 pages. But honestly, a lot of these books on my TBR could fit that prompt too. And I'll also be able to get the bonus points for this being written in the 20th century. Next up, we have A Touch of Light by Thiago Abdallah. This fits my cover by prompt. I bought this book because of the sweet cover. And it also gives me the bonus points for an indie author. Next up, we have Thud by Terry Pratchett. This is the next book in the City Watch series. I can't wait to continue my Discworld journey. This will satisfy the back burner prompt, which means, last year I was going to catch up on the City Watch, and I had to put these books on the back burner. I had to push them off, delay them, but now I'm back in the City Watch and I'm enjoying my time so much on Discworld. And it will also give me the bonus points for being written in the 21st century. And then next up we have The Two-Faced Queen. This is book 2 in that Kingdom of Liars series. I forget the series title. This is by Nick Martell. I mentioned this earlier when I was doing my March wrap-up. I enjoyed the Kingdom of Liars so much I had to put book 2 on my April TBR. I can't wait to see where this story goes. This is also one of those chunkers I'm guessing over 500 pages, because I got the book from the library and it is a thick, thick book. But this will satisfy my continuing series prompt and also gives me the bonus points for the second book in a series. This one, although I'm still hoping to read this in April, I may substitute the arc for book 2 in the Trials of Ashmount series, Buzzard's Bowl by John Palladino, because that will also fit these 2 prompts. Depends on which one I get to and finish first. Although I hope to read both, so there's that. And then the last book on my TBR Blitz readathon TBR is The Lost Apothecary by Sarah Penner. This is also my patron pick of the month. And this will cover the book that's been on my TBR for over a year. This has been on my TBR ever since it came out in 2021. And I'll get the bonus points for a debut novel because this is Sarah Penner's debut novel. Now you might be thinking, that's only 5 books. We know you've got more, and you're right. I do have more on my TBR. So the other books on my TBR will include A Storm of Swords by George R.R. Martin, the next book in the Game of Thrones, A Song of Ice and Fire series. We Promised You a Main Event. This is part of my Books My Boyfriend Gave Me series. John picked this book out. It's all about WrestleMania, which is happening this weekend. I'm trying to avoid social media until we can watch the WrestleMania videos together. This is the biggest weekend in WWE all year round. It's a 2-day event, technically 3-day event really. They kick off with the Hall of Fame inductions Friday night, and then Saturday and Sunday is the Hall of Fame, and y'all, I can't wait to watch this. So I thought it'd be fun to slide this book in there as an homage to WrestleMania, because this book is all about WrestleMania. And then there is our Joan Didion Essay of the Month, Los Angeles Notebook, which I actually read this morning. So more thoughts to come on that. I slid in the first graphic novel in the Dresden series, Welcome to the Jungle. I started that yesterday. I am loving it so much. I mentioned Buzzard's Bowl, which is the arc of book 2 in John Palladino's series. And then I'm beta reading a book for JCM Byrne, who will be on the channel in May, talking about his first series. But I'm beta reading this book, which will be a different series, a new series separate from his Hybrid Helix series. And I'm really enjoying that so far too. Oh, the last book that I forgot to mention on my TBR is going to be Middle March by George Eliot. This is going to be I'm buddy reading this with Stephanie at Miss Richards Reads and Tiffany at Beautiful Minutiae. And I don't know if I'll be able to get through that all in April. That may carry over into May, because that's a giant book and I was supposed to start it in March. I haven't started it yet, but I've got the book. I've got the audiobook on Audible, and I am hoping to start that soon. And I'm going to take it slow. So they're just going to have to wait until I get to it. But that's my March wrap up, my April TBR. Let me know in the comments below, what was your favorite book you read in March? And what are you looking forward to reading most in April? If you're part of the TBR Blitz Readathon, let me know also in the comments below, what losing team are you on? Or are you on the winning team with Derry? So yeah, my Patreon and my Discord information will be in the description below. Keep reading, and I love you all to the moon and back. Bye.